Very few drivers this season have been on a roller coaster like Ollie Bearman. After he impressed everyone with his cameo performances last year with Ferrari and Haas, expectations were high for his first full season debut in 2025. Right from the off, I want to say that Bearman is undeniably a very talented driver. His speed has been electric to the point where recently he has almost become a regular in Q3, and you can see that in years to come with more refinement and more maturity, this is a driver who I have no doubt will score podiums, probably become a race winner, and maybe even one day a champion. Having said that, you can't ignore the fact that he has also been a bit reckless at times. After Monza, he has accrued 10 penalty points over the last year, meaning that with 12 being the threshold, he sits on the verge of a race ban in his rookie season. Going through his 10 penalty points so far, the first 2 came in Brazil last season, where in only his third race and driving in the wet for the very first time in Formula 1, he had a horrible race overall, driving into the back and spinning Franco Colapinto. And next up was 2 points at Monaco for overtaking under red flags during FP2, which was just a clear lack of concentration. That lack of concentration under red flags was then taken to a whole different level in Silverstone, as he decided that it would be a good time to practice attacking the pit entrance to see how late he could get his braking. How late turned out to be too late, as he locked up and crashed on pit entry under red flags. That incident, especially after Monaco, was just pure stupidity of the highest level, and rightly so, the stewards decided to throw the book at the rookie and teach him a lesson, and gave him 4 penalty points on his license, along with a 10th-place grid penalty for the race. And now, the last 2 penalty points came at Monza for his collision with Carlos Sainz, which, to be honest, I thought was incredibly harsh on Ollie Bearman. Even though Sainz got ahead of Ollie into the braking zone, he didn't actually complete the overtake. Ollie still had half of his car alongside Carlos, and it wasn't as if Ollie was locked up and out of control on a collision course. Carlos, after getting his nose ahead, seemingly decided to just take the normal racing line, forgetting the fact that Ollie, on his inside who was already on the limit of his braking, can't just disappear into thin air. I don't understand why Carlos didn't just give Ollie a little bit of space on the inside, and I really don't understand how you can say that Ollie was predominantly to blame for that incident and deserving of those 2 points. That then brings us to last time out in Austin and his controversial incident with Yuki, as well as his comments after the race. The first thing to note is that corner is very complex. Turn 15 is a weird double apex, and in reality, everyone is always just lining their cars up for the even more important turn 16, which is where we see a bunch of dive bombs if people don't defend the inside. The most important thing to say is that there was never, ever a gap on the inside for an overtake to even be possible. Yuki made his intentions very clear throughout that sequence of corners that he was going to hug the inside line all the way to turn 16, and that is exactly what he did. When it comes to the moving under braking, there is no doubt that Yuki brakes earlier than you normally would, but he is also on a much shallower line than you'd normally take. I have watched the front-facing slow-motion footage a million times now, and I think what people see as Yuki moving under braking is actually just him turning into the apex for turn 15 early, which he is allowed to do given that at no point during that sequence is Ollie ever alongside Yuki. I think Ollie, in his mind going into that corner, was so hell-bent that he was going to dive down the inside that he almost didn't have another plan for when Yuki then decided to keep the inside line closed the entire way. He was overcommitted to a dive bomb that was never on in the first place, and he then got spooked when Yuki refused to do what he wanted. I was actually really surprised how hard Brundle and Crofty were pushing for Yuki to get investigated during the race, and I was pleasantly surprised that the stewards decided that it wasn't even worth investigating. And now, ironically, had Ollie crashed into the back of Yuki, or even had the incident been investigated with Ollie deemed to be at fault, that would have led to an automatic 2 points at the very least on his license, and Bearman right now would have been banned for the Mexican Grand Prix. After the race, however, is where things started to get personal. I felt that what he did was very dangerous, against the spirit of the regulations and against the spirit of going racing. This is not how we go racing at this level. It's not the way we want to teach young kids watching how we should go racing. but I feel that he has been doing these desperate moves. In the sprint, he was dive bombing down the inside, and the same in the main race at turn 1. A lot of risk, and I probably should have left a bit more margin for that type of driving. To me, this outburst towards Yuki, which kind of felt personal, was a bit bizarre, and I also think it lacked a sense of perspective. I get him being angry for what happened in the race, but to then bring in what Yuki did in the sprint, which by the way was a brilliant piece of normal, opportunistic racing on lap 1. At that point, I think he was just throwing meaningless criticism for the sake of it, which kind of negates his overall point. Had that happened against a Verstappen, Alonso or Hamilton, there is absolutely no way that Ollie would have made those comments. Yuki is clearly having a bad season. He is a driver under pressure. He is probably going to be dropped at the end of the year. He is actually showing a lot of spirit in trying to hold onto his seat in the best way possible by fighting as hard as he can, as opposed to just throwing in the towel. And so, in a way, he is just an easy target for Bearman to go at. It's also worth mentioning that Ollie is a rookie on the verge of a race ban who in the last 12 months has punted people off and crashed during red flags. To then do the whole "this is bad for kids" gimmick when he himself has not exactly been a shining example of clean racing. I understand drivers being vocal in the heat of the moment and in the heat of battle, but to me it kind of came off a little bit entitled. This season, going up against Ocon, I thought was the perfect benchmark for Bearman, because Ocon is an experienced, proven midfield driver, and someone who himself was not going to give Ollie an easy ride. Whilst there have been plenty of low points this year, some of which we've already talked about, the talent, the speed, and more importantly, the potential with Bearman is undeniable. If you look at his season so far, not only does he have a better quali head-to-head compared to Ocon, but he has also had more Q3 appearances than Ocon, with a major improvement in his performances since the summer break, showing a strong progression since the start of the season. And now, it must be said that Haas as a team is not exactly the sharpest tool in the shed on the operational side, but despite this, and along with his raw speed, he has been able to convert that speed and potential into more and more points finishes. Ocon out of the box really hit the ground running, especially with a P5 finish in China that's kind of carried him in the championship so far. Ollie, however, has capitalized on his recent improvements in quali with 3 points finishes in the last 5 races, including a best result of the season of a P6 in Zandvoort. He also had a run of 4 consecutive races during the mid-portion of the season in which he finished just outside of the points in P11. And now, those positions might not mean anything for the championship, but they do show his consistency, and they do show that, had things gone a little bit more his way in different races, he easily could have had 3 or even 4 more points finishes by now. Bearman at this point is clearly a diamond in the rough. I wouldn't say yet that he's shown the potential of a guaranteed future world champion, but at the same time, as a Ferrari Junior, he is showing a level of potential that could see him race there when Lewis leaves in 2 or 3 years' time. I think an interesting comparison for Bearman is actually Mick Schumacher. That is another Ferrari Junior who at Haas in 2022 went up against K-Mag, who is a similar level of driver to Ocon, and there is no doubt that Bearman has not only showed more potential, delivered better results on track so far, but has also not been as crash prone as Schumacher was. That so far has been the duality of Ollie Bearman in his rookie season. He has the talent and there is a pathway for him to become a race winner at Ferrari, but he needs to also develop a lot mentally into a driver with better execution and better judgment, because he doesn't want to gain a reputation for being a talented but reckless driver who is constantly on the brink of a race ban. Given the natural progression that most drivers are able to make in their second season, I wouldn't be surprised to see Ollie supersede Ocon at Haas next season, and to see him eventually go on to become the best driver from the class of 25 against drivers like Antonelli and Bortoleto by the end of his career. What I really don't want to see, however, is his talent go to waste, because he clearly belongs in Formula 1 and he clearly has a very long and successful future in Formula 1 ahead of him. Well, there you have it. If you did enjoy this video and want to support the channel, then don't forget to subscribe. That would be massively appreciated, and I'll see you in the next one.